Well, everyone, here we are, Skull and Bones Season 2. Now, I've covered this game a lot, actually, for years and years before it launched earlier this year, just a few months ago. And as I am sure you are already painfully aware, this game has had a bit of a rough go of it. You see, in addition to being a game that, no one really asked for, it's also been caught in what's known as development hell, which is basically just code for they couldn't finish it. There were reports and stories of how this went through 3 or 4 different game directors, how they restarted development a number of times, and what we eventually got was an amalgamation of a bunch of different people's ideas of what the game should be, and so it's just super disjointed. However, because this is a live service game, they have an opportunity to improve it with time. And that's what this update aims to do. They've already announced what the first 4 seasons are going to be for this game. The first season was the one against La Peste and the poisonous thing. I did a video on that back a few months ago, and it was fine. It was something. At least it had a unique boss fight at the end of the season, so there was that. Which, when you think about it, really shouldn't be that much of an accomplishment, but in the age of Suicide Squad, I guess we can't take anything for granted with live service games, so I'll take what I can get. And this time around, we have a bunch of new stuff that's also been added. So as you can see here, Season 2 is all about the Chorus of Havoc. The 2 bad guys in this season for Skull and Bones are a pair of twins. They were opera singers in this lore, and basically they killed a rival singer and then they were banished to basically hunt down pirates and stuff. It's a weird punishment, but whatever. If you're playing a game like this for an intense narrative, I got some news for you. But as you can see, they have a lot of stuff that they are planning on a weekly basis for new content. Everything from items and materials, new furniture, which are basically this game's version of perks and stuff you can add to your ship for improved capabilities. They have all sorts of different missions and equipment and all sorts of stuff. But before we get into all of this in nitty-gritty detail, thank you to our sponsor, Factor. Factor is the meal delivery service that gives you fresh, never frozen, chef-crafted, dietitian-approved, ready-to-eat in just 2-minute meals delivered straight to your doorstep every single week. I've actually been a long-term subscriber of Factor, and that's because it's just really easy for me to go upstairs into the fridge, pull out, the one I just had 20 minutes ago was a chicken thigh and wild rice risotto with green beans and everything. Super delicious, and I just put it in the microwave for 2 minutes, and then I took it out and ate it, and it was amazing and delicious. It's super easy, it's delicious, and I can't recommend it enough. And because Factor is flexible, you can also change it up to accommodate your life as it gets hectic or calms down. If you have a really busy week and you just don't want to have to worry about food, you can order up to 18 meals for the week. Or if you're going out of town on vacation, you can just pause your subscription and resume or reschedule your deliveries at another time. I love Factor. I can't recommend them enough. I use them literally every day. Me and my wife eat them for lunch pretty much every single day. So I am a fan, and I would recommend you check them out. Get 50% off of your first Factor box and 20% off of your next month of orders by using my link in the description box or in the pinned comment below. So again, check them out at the link in the description or scan the QR code on screen with your phone and get started. Now here's the thing, I played a good amount of this game even before it launched as part of the beta programs that they were doing, not just for content creators, but just in general. If you wanted to be a part of the game's development, you could play some of the betas and offer feedback and stuff like that. And so I actually got to take on the final boss fight against La Peste well before the game actually launched, and I mentioned that in my last video. This time around, though, they've kept things much closer to their chest and have not shared what this boss fight will look like. And pretty much the way that they've balanced this is that you have to get through the entire season in order to take on that boss. If we pull up our handy dandy notebook just to show you difficulty levels, if you imagine that the boss fight against the seasonal baddie is up here in terms of difficulty, where you start the season is down here. You start well under level. If you try to take them on, you're just gonna get slammed there's just no way that you can do it. Usually they have special armor, they have special resistances to certain types of damage, but vulnerabilities to others. And then they also deal damage of a certain type. So for example, with Le Peste, he dealt out poison damage like crazy. And if you didn't have special furniture or perks for your ship that made you resistant to that poison damage, you just couldn't kill him. You couldn't even begin to approach killing him. But if you grinded out the rest of the season, got those furniture pieces that made you super resistant to poison damage, you could take him on. And after a long and hard fought battle, you could eventually take him down. And to be clear, this is fine. This is how a lot of live service games work. I don't think you should necessarily be able to take on the final boss fight of a season immediately. At least you shouldn't be able to win it easily. But it's still kind of frustrating because there's a lot of grind involved with getting up to this level to be able to take on the boss of the season. And you know, I've said before that grind is one of those tricky things where it depends on how you look at it. Grind is only really bad when it's repetitive and not fun. If you're grinding fun gameplay, it doesn't really feel like a grind. It's just gameplay that's kind of repetitive that works you towards a common goal that's shared with other players, for example. Like take, for example, when Helldivers launched. That game was super repetitive and still is. You're just fighting waves of automatons or waves of bugs and doing different missions within those maps, but it's all very samey, and yet because it's so fun, it doesn't feel like that much of a trudge or that much grind. And the same thing's true for RPGs and things like that, where there might be a level that you need to get to take on a big boss encounter and you have to grind to that level. It doesn't feel like grinding if the content is good. If the content's bad, it feels real bad. And as you can see, all of the stuff that they have for this season to grind up to that level to take on the two Opera twin bosses, it's all the same stuff we've done before. Find the start of this race northeast of Lenitra, or Course 2 doesn't even unlock until June 4th. And then this one, June 11th, this one is once you complete all the others at grand ranking. Like it just doesn't really offer that much that's fresh or different. And beyond this, if I go to the regular map, you know, we have other contracts like this one, which you just attack a company skirmisher and bring their loot to the blacksmith. That's part of the main quest. Other grindable things like shipwrecks and like whaling and stuff like that for material collection. But it's just like, it's not different. It's just the same grind that was already bad before. You know, with a lot of this, it's just kind of frustrating because you want to go back in, jump in and kind of see what's going on, but they make it pretty damn difficult. One thing I'll give Suicide Squad is they make it really easy for you to come in later seasons or episodes and just jump right in, even if you're not leveled, even if you didn't grind out the previous episode, you can still be competitive just fine with the new content. Because it's kind of like a separate thing. It doesn't really consider how much you grinded the previous stuff. But in this game, it is very much about total hours played, how much you've grinded up your ship in order to take on other ships that patrol the waters in certain areas. And so that makes it tough for new players to come in and get involved if they haven't grinded before, because they're just already pretty behind the curve. And the same grind to get just to the fun part of Skull and Bones, which is the pirate stuff, is still there. You still have to go through hours and hours and hours of randomly going and chopping down wood and then going and shooting down this small like brigantine ship and then collecting that loot, going all the way back to the blacksmith to turn it in. Like, it's just very, very bloated, and especially in the early hours, they are insistent on you doing non-piratey things. And that's only if the game works. When I logged into the game today to film this video after updating it for season 2, I was met with this screen right here. And this wasn't a great way to be welcomed back. For whatever reason, my save was incompatible and my progress was wiped. So I had to go back and grind through a bit more in order to get to this point just to film this video. Now, I did some Googling and it seems like a handful of people had similar issues and they were able to contact Ubisoft support and get their save file restored or something, because it has cloud backups. I don't really understand it. And frankly, I'm not sure I care that much to go and recover my save from before, because like realistically, am I going to be playing more of this after this video? Probably not. So, you know, I guess it's one of those no harm, no foul. It's still really frustrating to put time into a game and then just lose that progress. But you know, I guess what did I expect? I'm playing Skull and Bones, for God's sake. And I think a lot of us were braced for them to announce like that this game was canceled or being abandoned or something. And it seems like that's not happening anywhere near in the near term, at least. There was this article that went up back in March after the game launched where Ubisoft said that Skull and Bones had record player engagement. They didn't announce sales numbers, but they said record player engagement. And this was like kind of a tricky way of describing the game's performance. Like specifically what they're referring to here are a couple of specifically cherry-picked stats that make it sound probably better than it actually is. Specifically, they point to the average daily playtime of the people that were playing the game at launch. And they said that there were 4 hours of average daily playtime, which was the second highest ever in Ubisoft history across all of their games. So if you take Skull and Bones, you look at like the first week or so of the game's launch, the average playtime for everybody that booted up the game was 4 hours, which is an actually like pretty impressive metric when you consider how many people might like download it, play it for half an hour or an hour, and then maybe put it down to do something else for a bit and then come back to it over the weekend. Like that's a pretty impressive metric. Now, there's an old saying from Mark Twain that was, there's lies, damn lies, and statistics. And in this case, I think this is one of those instances where if you have more information, this becomes a lot less impressive. Specifically, they happen to not mention, Ubisoft, in this stat, that when the game launched, they launched with an 8-hour free trial. So you could just download the game, play it for 8 hours, and then decide if you wanted to buy it. And so what seems like was happening is a lot of people were downloading the game for free, and they put in probably 8 hours while it was free, and then didn't touch it again. And then everybody else that tried it for 5-10 minutes and just immediately uninstalled it when it didn't click with them, that brings the average to about 4 hours of total playtime, which makes it a lot less impressive that they got to that 4 hour mark. Now that is daily average playtime, so some players certainly were playing this a lot and maybe putting in like 10, 15, 20 hours in the span of a day or two, but it doesn't necessarily mean that this game like sold well or was generating any sort of revenue. You know, when a game has free-to-play access, players might jump in, but whether they're spending money or not is the determining factor of whether this makes sense to support in the long term. And right now, it just doesn't really seem like it's the most viable project for them to continue pursuing, especially when you consider that most people that were playing this wanted something else. I mean, there was this reporting that Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag player counts rose by 200% when Skull and Bones dropped, which is pretty funny that like people booted up Skull and Bones with the free trial, were like, oh, I just want to play Black Flag. And so they re-downloaded it and played that more. But it's because people wanted that. They wanted Black Flag Remake or Black Flag 2 or whatever it would be. And then they got this, and it gave them a taste of what it could be, but they just ended up going back to the game from 2013 instead. And yes, Assassin's Creed Black Flag released in October of 2013. It's over a decade old. Do you feel old yet? I sure do. We all feel old. We're all ancient. Let's just deal with it. So honestly, this video is a little weird for me because I was hoping I could come back in with my save file and do some more of the season update content. But all the seasonal update content seems to just be the same content we've already done a bunch, and it's just more of it. And then after you grind that, you can take on the big boss fight, which at this point nobody's actually seen because the season just dropped a few hours ago. So I've tried searching around for videos if anybody got early access to it or was so OP that they could take them on immediately, but no, at this point it might be a good boss fight. It might just be another ship that you shoot at and that's it. I honestly don't know. But the fact that I have to grind so much repetitive content I've already done to get there, just to me is bleh. I will say one new thing that they added was racing. You can see in this video from Born to Game, just posted an hour ago actually. He did this race in one of his bigger, fully upgraded ships and everything. And you can see it's basically you just go through these little checkpoints in your ship before the time runs out. And I guess that's new. That's a thing. You know, you got to juggle your ship's stamina bar, because yes, your ship has stamina in this game, and hit the checkpoints to refill the stamina, or you use the food that you can cook in droves, especially in the late game. You see he's got 282. He ain't running out of food anytime soon. So again, like it's something, but there's only so many different game modes you can add to a game about sailing ships and being a pirate, where you can't go on land and actually do pirate stuff yourself. Like you're only on the water. There's only so much that they could throw into this. And that just goes back to the concept. You know, I can't fault them for failing to come up with like really novel systems or mission designs and stuff, when at the end of the day, it's just a concept that's extremely limited. You know, it would be like releasing a Grand Theft Auto game, but you can never leave your car. It's like, okay, well, like the car could be really cool. The driving could be really cool, but it's not quite a racing game, and it's not really a GTA game because it doesn't do any of that well. So it's just half of both experiences, and it leaves everyone frustrated and sad. And that's kind of where we're at with this. I would love to have a new pirate game to get into. If you guys don't know, like I am huge into pirates. I have like a gigantic 3D printed pirate ship that I'm assembling back behind me. Like I love ships. I love sailing. I love pirates. I think it's one of the most underutilized, if not the most underutilized genre in all of gaming right now. Like screw sci-fi stuff, screw like zombie post-apocalyptic stuff. I want pirate games. That's my bread and butter. I love it. And yet Skull and Bones is a type of pirate game we've been getting. And we have others like Sea of Thieves that just launched on PlayStation, which is awesome. We can still play Black Flag, I guess. But like we really have not gotten a good pirate game in many a moon. And I just think we need something. Us pirate fans, we're loyal. We'll buy your game. We'll enjoy it. We'll play the crap out of it. Just give us something instead of like this weird The Crew ripoff, but it's about ships and shooting stuff with cannons that don't work really well. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much all I have to say about this. I have tried to give Skull and Bones the chance to impress me. I feel like I've tried a lot more than a lot of other content creators who have made videos on this game, but it's not coming together. And I'm somebody that loves pirate stuff. And so if anything, I'm the target audience for this game, and it's just not what it needed to be. But that doesn't really surprise anybody. Any game that was in development hell as long as this one was bound to go through some pretty rough times and probably start at quite a disadvantage compared to other live service pirate game offerings. But more than anything, it just reminded me that I really want to experience something like Black Flag again. And thankfully, it looks like we will. It's been rumored and leaked. I'm not sure if it's been officially confirmed, but it's almost certain that we are getting a Black Flag remake from the team that actually put this together. So all of these assets they made for Skull and Bones, they're going to get more out of it by putting together a Black Flag remake. Not a remaster, but a full remake. And that's probably going to come out in like 3-ish years, I would guess. So after AC Hexe and everything, we should get that maybe 2027. And we'll be able to sail the seas again. And maybe after that, they'll greenlight another piratey game if that does well, because, you know, Ubisoft is always looking for what they can milk. So if pirates are it, you'd think that they would jump on it. I mean, even just the, like, listen, just take it in.
It's every day, bro, with the Disney Channel flow.
And then we ended honorably by sailing into a ship at full speed, as one does. Skadoosh. We're dead. They're like, excuse me? Who are you, you little level 2 bitch? As I sail into a cliff face. It's only right that it ends that way, in a blaze of fiery humiliation, just like this game. So that's gonna do it for me. Thank you for watching. I appreciate the gosh darn heck out of each and every one of you. Do me a favor, go down to the comments section and let me know if you also agree that pirate games are underrepresented, because I know for a fact that Ubisoft employees watch my videos. They reach out to me regularly, and so if you guys like verbalize very profoundly that you want more pirate stuff, maybe that starts to pick up in intensity, and maybe they start to hear and listen, and maybe somebody in charge gets an idea to do what fans want them to do. So, you know, voice those opinions down below, and I can use that and point to that next time I talk to somebody over there, and maybe we can make something happen in like 4 or 5 years. Just like, dude, I want a pirate game so bad. I've said it like 1,000 times. I'm gonna say it again. One of my dream games would be for like a Santa Monica studio or a Naughty Dog or like an Asobo studio, somebody like that, to come along swinging with a like dark, gritty pirate game that's narrative heavy, that's more linear, that's told in the Golden Age of Piracy, like not even Pirates of the Caribbean, but like dark, intense, realistic, and grounded. I would lose it for the love of all that's good and holy. I hope one day we get that, but it's not looking great for pirate game representation. But anyway, thanks for watching. I love you all desperately. Again, thank you to Factor for sponsoring this video and keeping me fed for the last however many months. I love you all. Thank you for watching. Make sure to sub, like the video if you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one. Hugs and kisses. Bye-bye.